recording. So if Rob was here, he would love it if I said, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Monday night call. I am really excited because today, the third Monday of every month, I like to either try to get a guest speaker on or do a training myself. And I felt like it'd been a really long time since I did a training myself, because my focus was so much on systems and just different things, and that I feel like I'm not even in the pages going live as often as I have been. And I thought to myself, like, what could I really, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that feeling of like, what do I even say? Like, what do I even have to say right now, you know? And I often will admit that if I'm going to go live on a platform, I do always overthink, like, what do I even need to talk about right now? Like, what do I have to say that's of value? But it's very rare that I feel that way on a team call. Like, what am I going to say? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect opportunity for those of you that were not at the Growth Project, and for those of you that were, for me to do this presentation again for you. But because I have a longer time and I'm not on a time schedule, I can actually dive a little bit deeper into the actual like actions and importance and things like that. So for those of you that do not know, because I do see some faces that I am not familiar with. So my name is Lindsay Gray. I did post this call opportunity in Christina's downline, in basically, hold on, I'm going to make sure everyone's muted here, in any, like all the team pages that I'm in, just because I am a big believer in giving away everything that you have. I truly believe that if you're a coach who hoards your meal plans and hoards your systems and hoards the book that changed your life and hoards all this because you know it's done so much for you and you think it's of so much value that you can't just give it away, then you're only hurting yourself, because when you actually give everything away, it launches you tenfold into that space of momentum and excitement, and you just get so much back. So I'm like, you know what, let's tell any and everyone who wants to get on the team call to jump on in. So if you don't know me, I am one of Christina's personally sponsored. I spoke at Coach Camp. If you were there, hello. And I see a lot of our team on here, but I really have a passion for speaking. And what my friend Carly and I did was we actually put together, if you saw, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, we actually put together an event. And we wanted it to be something that was different, because there's coach camps and there's platinum presenters and different things where they train on actual Beachbody. But you guys, what I want you to know is that Beachbody or not Beachbody, no matter where you were, no matter what you're doing right now in your life, it's not the opportunity. And I said this before when people were questioning network marketing and if it was in a dip and all of this stuff. It's never the opportunity that you're a part of that is the reason you're succeeding or not, right? And you might be saying, yeah, because I need to do the things or whatever. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to tell you that it's not even you doing all of the things that takes you to the point of if you're being successful or not. Because a coach can do all the things for years and years and show up every day, but if they're not centered and coming from a place of being aligned with what they even see in this life for them, then everyone's going to be able to call BS, and they're not going to be able to grow. So the Growth Project, Carly and I put together, Carly Sabev, and we really dove deep into what saved us from some pretty traumatic times that we were going through. And it just so happened to be in both of our lives. She was going through the start of a divorce and having all these feelings of becoming a single mom and, you know, taking on the feelings of her daughter and like all of these things. And she was coming from a place of, you know, I can't really speak for her, but I mean, confusion, thanks baby, confusion, and probably like lacking confidence in, like, this wasn't what life was supposed to look like. right? And I was also going through some things at that time. And for me, I had just had my second child, which nobody gives anyone the real heads up on going from 1 to 2. Whoa, doggy. Like, that was crazy. And so I always give people, like coaches that are pregnant with their second child, I always say, I'm just going to give you a tip. Your goal is to just not disappear. And you're rocking it. Like, in that transition, just don't disappear. So I was going through this time where I was transitioning from having one child at home to 2, because I do have 2 older bonus children, but they don't live with us. And I was transitioning from that as well as fighting my way out of postpartum depression. I was right on the fence for so long, and he wasn't sleeping. And I really was at a place in my life where I lacked confidence. I didn't think anyone would want to join me anymore. I felt like a shell of a person, and all I could do was survive every day. So Carly and I really were going through this place where we were both just surviving. And we were like, dude, like, this can't be life. Like, life can't be surviving. Like, how are you today? And how many of you, like, jokingly will say to someone else, surviving, and it's a joke, but like, when you look deep down into it, like, that's serious, right? We're living our lives for so much more than to survive. And when we and when we give ourselves that permission to stay in the place of survival by saying it like that, you guys, we're giving ourselves permission to, when we say, oh, I'm just surviving, I'm surviving, and we're not doing anything to change, that's the definition of insanity, like, I'm just surviving, I'm not, it's like you're giving yourself permission to stay there until something breaks the cycle, right? So what's going to break the cycle? We always wait for something to break the cycle, like the 12 people that are going to enroll with you tonight with challenge packs, and you're going to, like, hit the highest success club ever. And tonight's the night, like, you're going to make an awesome post, and all these people are going to join your team, and that's going to break your cycle, right? Or this awesome conversation you're going to have with someone, that's going to break your cycle. Or you're finally going to get past that next 10-pound mark that you were going for, and that's going to break your cycle. We always are looking for what's going to break that cycle. And we often forget that that the most power and the most powerful person in your life to take control of that and break that cycle is you. And that's you with God, right? If you're a Christian, that's you with the universe that has your back. If you're a universe person, whatever it is, like, with you and your source and your provider and your savior and what it is that you give all the glory to, right? Like, you are the powerful cycle breaker, and you can decide to break that cycle right now. So how do we do that, though? Because it's hard, right? Like, oh, Lindsay just said that, and that sounds so easy, but, like, yeah, single mom feeling like she's failed, mom fighting her way out of postpartum, struggling with all sorts of stuff. And I'll just go ahead and say, if Rob was standing here right now, he wouldn't care, because we're very open about that, but struggling with my marriage as well. We were never going to get divorced, but I mean, I didn't really like him much, and he didn't really like me much, and it was just our life phase, and that's okay, right? How do you can flip the switch. You can make a decision to flip the switch. But there has to be power behind that decision, because what happens when you make the decision to flip the switch, but then the next day you wake up late, or the next day your husband throws something away that he wasn't supposed to throw away again, or the next day your car breaks down, or whatever, right? There has to be a power behind the decision, and that power comes from you, and the power comes from how you fuel yourself, how you take care of yourself, and where you get that source energy, or that source love and guidance and growth, right? Push to keep going and stop just surviving from. So I'm going to go ahead and take you guys through what I spoke about at Coach Camp, and I called it the why. So the reason is because we were like, why are we even putting this on? And it was like, because we just want people to feel good. Like, we just want people to feel the way that we feel. And so our presentations were the why, the how, and the what. So we had Dr. Vic, who actually was the person who taught us all of this in this time where we were struggling. He came in and he talked a little bit about some things. And then Carly, so it was the why, the what, and then the how Carly really used it to change her life. But I'm going to incorporate a little bit of all of that in there today. So we opened with this when we started, and it was like the best feeling in the world to stand up there and like finally we put on this event, and we got people there in the chairs, and like we had everything planned, and our closest teammates and friends that could be there were there. And then this song played, and I remember just taking it in, and every time I hear this song, it's like this breath of fresh air again. So I just want to play this first part. And of course I know it's about relationships, but I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier when the morning comes. I like that you're smiling, Stace. In the cold light of day, we're a flame in the wind of the fire we begun. Every argument, every word we can't take back. Cause with all that has happened, I think that we both will take the story. There's only for a minute. I want to change my mind. This is something. Good one. So that, to me, it's about a relationship, right? But that beginning part isn't. That's like, to me, when he goes, and only for a minute, I want to change my mind, right? Because he wants to make her feel better. To me, it's like, but whenever I hear this song, I hear, but only for a minute, I want to change your life. That's what I hear. Like, I want to change my life. This is not the way it has to be. And so that's really what I take away from that song. And that's really what the whole point of our event was, and bringing it to you guys then. And we're going to be doing it more annually. And then for me, just to talk about it and share all of this with you. So I'm excited, and I'm going to dive right in. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. If you guys have any questions during the during this, we have a mess going on here. If you guys have any questions during this, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Please know that I am not a chat peeker while I'm speaking, but I will get to them. Can everyone see this? I'm sure it's small if you're on your phone, but okay, the why. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the why. So the why that this is important, and we're even talking about this again after we just had an event on this. So there's a cycle that I recognize, I want to make sure, okay, good, that I was going through for a really, really long time in my life. And there were certain things that would bring me out of that cycle, and I never really put my finger on it until I started getting a little bit more clear in this process and lifestyle that I'm going to be sharing with you. Then I really could kind of figure out what this was. So for a really long time, I realized that I woke up, I survived, and I went to sleep. I never really feel like I lived a life of intention, because I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know that I had the power to have it. And so I constantly just waited for the momentum to come, and then it would go away, and it would come in and it would go away. And I would just ebb and flow with what was happening to me instead of take control. So I would wake up and I would survive and I would sleep. And I think that a lot of us can say that that's normal, right? We go through that at phases in our life. So I'd find balance eventually, right? When I did break this cycle, I would find balance, I would gain momentum, I'd feel that shift, and I'd be, excited and going strong. Then I'd realize that something had to change. Like, it's not working. The way of inviting, the way of recruiting, the way of hosting this, the way of running our new coach group, the way of being on social media, the way of this business fitting in my life isn't working the way that it used to. And I would know that I needed to make a change. But I was scared to have it make a change. So instead I would think maybe it'll just work again. At that point, I would, in this cycle, start comparing myself to others. And I don't know about you guys, but I lived a life of comparison for a very long time. And when I finally could break free from that, I never thought that I'd compare myself to others again. But I find that I do often have that revisit me. And when I do, it's because I realize I'm in this cycle of wake up, survive, and sleep, and I'm not living with intention. So I start comparing myself to others, and then realize that I desperately need to start doing everything to go, right? Like if I'm Pudge, it's either the children or the dogs. Pudge, no. I need to desperately do everything to change this, right? You get desperate in that moment. Like I realize something's not working the way that it used to. I realize that I need to change something. I don't want to have to change anything though, because this worked well for so long. We're married to the solution that was once a solution for us, right? But it's not working anymore. So I would desperately start doing everything to cause burnout, and negative mindset, really. I would do all the things and maybe I'd hit my goal or maybe I wouldn't, but at the end of it, I would always feel burnt out. I'd feel negative. I'd feel like I had to like scrape myself out of bed in the morning. And then I'd finally accept that maybe something had to be done differently. I'd change it, I'd implement it, and it would repeat. The balance, the momentum, the shift, the recognizing that I need to change things up, the comparison, the burnout, the negative mindset, wake, survive, sleep. So that cycle, I can pretty much look back in my life and recognize quite a few different times that I went through that. And we're going to talk a little bit about this more, but let's just talk about my journey with Beachbody and when I got started. When I got started with Beachbody, I was very much in a wake up, survive, sleep state. I was 25 weeks pregnant, where in this picture, I'm 40 weeks pregnant. So that was not me at 25 weeks. That was with my first son at 40 weeks, but I was 25 weeks pregnant. And at that time, I was both inspired by somebody in my life, and I was also very, very desperate. So I want to take your attention to that top quote in the right-hand corner that says, we generally change ourselves for one of two reasons: inspiration or desperation. So when I look back at this cycle that I was in so many times, I realized that a lot of times when I was ready to accept that something had to be done different and I implemented it and repeated it, the thing that often shifted this to find my balance and gain momentum again was always out of inspiration or desperation. I was inspired because I could be one of the first people in the United States to travel with the Kadori hair tool brand and to these trade shows, and I could be one of the first people in the US to do this. You know, like things like that, big things. They would inspire me. So I would be excited then. I would change myself for that, or I was desperate. So when I was 25 weeks pregnant, I was both inspired and desperate. I was struggling from an eating disorder. I don't know if people knew or not. I don't know. I always thought I was good at hiding it, but I don't really know. And nobody will tell me at this point, and it's fine. We don't need to talk about it. But I was struggling with an eating disorder, and I was pregnant, and I knew that I couldn't do that because this baby needed everything from me. Like I couldn't have this disordered eating with him inside of me, and I needed a change, and I didn't know how. So I was desperate to figure that out. I had an on and off relationship with fitness for a really long time when I started my journey, which basically meant I would punish myself with a ton of cardio. I wouldn't really eat all day. I'd go out for dinner and drinks with my friends, eat way too much, drink way too much, knowing that it wasn't going to stay where it was, and repeat the cycle over and over again. I was also struggling paycheck to paycheck. My whole life, I always had 3 to 4 jobs at a time. Like I was always the person that was hungry for more. But I took what came to me in my wake, sleep, or survive, sleep cycle, opposed to go after something else. So I was very desperate at this point to change all of those things. And I was also inspired by Christina, who was my turbo kick instructor at the gym. And I needed to save money. What, honey? Listen, this is the only interruption because you were supposed to go with Dad if you were going to interrupt. There you go. Okay, here you go. I gotta do this now. Goodbye.
have it. I'm just saying, after your team calling me, I can play my phone.
Maybe, yes.
Would I be good?
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so the dog's bowls are coming up off the floor. All right, he's kicking them around. Okay, so I was very desperate to stay in Christina's circle because she was very inspiring to me, and she gave a positive energy that I hadn't felt in a really long time. But I couldn't continue going to the gym because I was struggling paycheck to paycheck. I had a baby inside of me, how I was going to pay for daycare. I had no idea what was going to happen in our lives. I had no idea, but I knew I needed to be a part of it still. So I reached out to her. Long story short, there was a question that she asked when I finally watched the video of the coaching opportunity. And the question that she asked was, if you do nothing different today, what is your life going to be like in 2 years? And what is it going to be like in 5 years? And are you okay with that? And that was the only thing that she really had to say to me, but it was the last thing I heard from all the other stuff. And all of a sudden the money didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. I knew that I knew with her asking that question that she was hinting to me that I had the power to change this. Like I didn't just have to wait for that cycle to be broken by something else. I could actually change with inspiration, with desperation, and change what was going on in my life and the outcome. So my first uphill with this business was when I began my journey. I was told by Christina that if I wanted to be successful, I had to do these things each month. Hit Success Club 5, run a challenge group, recruit 2 new coaches. And if I always did that and I never gave up, then I would never fail. So I'm a doer. And that's what she told me to do. So that's what I did. And in doing that, it paid off amazing. I was able to go part-time after a year, retire from my full-time job after 2.5 years with a 6-figure earning business. And I had a 13-week maternity leave, and I was really only going to have 6 weeks because we didn't even know how we were going to pay for me to be able to stay home. My husband's an electrician, so if he doesn't work, he doesn't get paid. I was a hairstylist. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. I didn't get any maternity leave besides just the time off, and we didn't have a savings. So this was a huge thing for me. Now, because I said that, I don't want you to think I just had all of the success. I had success, and I hit a very hard dip in the business where I then made the decision to continue, and that is when it really moved forward. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. So 13 weeks postpartum, I returned to work, and I was really on this high of like, this is such an exciting thing, and I returned to work, and at that time of returning to work is when everything first crashed down on me. I didn't reach the baseline that she gave me for the first time. It led to comparing, right? Because my cycle was now broken. Something wasn't working. Something outside of my life was affecting my vibe. And I didn't have control of my vibe, right? Like I think that I am like on cloud 9 and life is good, but an outside source, me returning to work, a change in my uncontrollables affected the strength I had inside that maybe wasn't even there at that time, right? And it crashed down on me. I didn't reach it. I started comparing. I started questioning. And I lacked a lot of belief in myself. I actually didn't hit Success Club that month or the next month, and I really didn't even care. And I had hit Success Club all of the months from when I had started until then, which is about 6 months. But I didn't care because now something changed. Therefore, right back, if we look at that first slide, something's changed. Maybe it'll just work if I just keep trying again. I'm comparing myself. I'm desperately doing all the things. I'm getting burnt out. I have a negative mindset. Now I'm accepting that something needs to change, but did I even have the energy to really do it, right? So I went from being inspired to being very desperate. So I was inspired, and then I went back to work, and I kind of hit this plateau where I didn't know what was going on anymore. I stayed there for a while in that negativity, and then something changed. I went from inspired to desperate when I attended a live event, and the live event did one thing. It inspired me, right? So it inspired me to pick myself up again. And it wasn't because a positive thing happened. It was because I'm a Ruby mindset, and somebody got recognized for something that I thought. I really wanted that recognition because I felt like I had worked so hard. Couldn't she see that I was trying so hard? But I realized that I had did the one thing that she had told me not to do, which was don't give up, do these things every single month and you'll be successful. And I hadn't. Right. So I joined a group with her to level up. And the first person to hit their goal of diamond rank would win an iPad or a ticket to Summit. I had already earned a ticket to Summit for being a success starter, and I didn't go, but I had already earned a ticket. So I really wanted the iPad. Suddenly I was inspired by the incentive, and the excitement made me move. So I was desperate for the recognition. And then I was inspired by that incentive of an iPad that we couldn't afford. Like, to have an iPad was a really big deal to me. I had a 2-year-old that, like, I was excited to put like an ABC game on there and do this with. You know, I couldn't even imagine buying someone an iPad as a gift for doing something. Like, it was so big to me. I was super inspired. And so I went all in, and within a week, I hit the goal. Because I was inspired and I was desperate. Once again, I had fire from both sides. So I rode this momentum for a year, and it brought me to be able to go part-time, like I said. And then the team was producing. Everything was good. I was happy, and I started coasting again, right? Until separation anxiety with my 2-year-old son brought me to the season of desperation again. So I started coasting. And that was kind of like what would happen in my business is I would gain momentum because I was inspired. And when that inspiration would die off, I'd coast. And then I'd get desperate and I'd gain. And then I'd coast. And I never realized that I was only fueling my goals and my dreams for my future from outside sources of inspiration and desperation, and never what was actually inside of me. And that was really powerful. That was a big thing for me to admit to and to realize that I had to change. But separation anxiety, I'm cutting my grandma's hair in this corner, and I had to wear him while I was cutting her hair because he had that bad of separation anxiety. And so that changed everything for me. So in between the desperation and the inspiration times, I want you guys to know that I still consistently showed up. I do want to tell you this because I never stopped coaching. I never stopped posting. I never stopped running challenge groups, but I changed the way that I was in there. I would bring the energy for a few months, and then a couple months when I was just coasting, my energy was down because I was like, I constantly would feel like I'm inspired and I'm going to hit this, and I'd hit it, and then I felt like I arrived. Right? And so then I'd coast, and well, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. You've never arrived. You can't just maintain. And so that was kind of the cycle that I was in. So there's a huge difference between showing up and intentionally working towards your vision. And my cycle was that I was intentional. When I was intentional, it was always out of either inspiration or desperation. In between those seasons, I struggled to make consistent strides and set goals and share my vision because I was never being driven and pushed by who I was and what I actually wanted, and the alignment to my vision and the connection with God or source energy or the universe or whatever it is that you believe. For me, it's God. But I was always showing up, yet my presence and my movement forward was very different. I was burning the candles at both ends or not burning either. And people around me would always be like, dude, your business is just always going. And it's because I always showed up on social media, but they never, like, I remember there's been so many times where people comment on, your team is just always on fire. And I'm like, but we're not. Like, I'm drowning. Right? Like, I'm either inspired or I'm desperate, or I feel like I'm like dying inside sometimes. So I had no idea how to change it except do more. And we all know that doesn't lead to anywhere worth going. So from desperation to the plateau, the desperation actually of the separation anxiety is what drove me to push really hard and get super intentional. And it brought me home to the little boy who cried every day at drop off, put snot all over me, made me have anxiety. And when I finally accomplished that, I felt this huge sense of pride, and I wanted to share it with everyone. And I wanted everyone to have this gift, that 2.5 years in, I was able to come home on an almost 6-figure earning business. It was huge. It was everything. I didn't have to worry about money for the first time ever. My parents always lived paycheck to paycheck, or so it seemed. Maybe it wasn't paycheck to paycheck, but it was always pretty tight. And I knew that, I recognized that. You know, I didn't have to worry about time. I suddenly had all the time in the world. And my vision that drove me to build this business was, at one point, it turned into being home with him. And so so then once again, what happened was that I arrived, because what else could there be, right? So I sat comfortable there for a very long time. And for those of you that don't know my story, I've been here a coach for 6 years. And in that 6 years, I'm a 4-star right now, but I have 6 or 7 lifetime diamonds. Owen. Owen, I need you to go sit down, okay? No, in a minute. So I sat comfortable for a very long time. Focusing though, I noticed only when I was desperate because my income dipped, or only when I was inspired because the team's momentum around me was amazing. So I never dared to dream any bigger. And I got frustrated after a couple years of sitting at 1 star for a long time. And I'm like, I don't get it though. I have to be happy. I have to be grateful because I'm living the dream that I wanted, and I'm blessed to be here, and I don't want to seem greedy, right? And then I had Oliver, and I never had to leave for work at all with him. And I was good. I felt like I was good. And, you know, it's kind of like when you reach a certain fitness goal and you're like, I don't need abs. Like, I don't need to really push for all that stuff. I'm going to still have my Nutella and my drinks, and I'm going to just be good right here. But at a point you realize, like, shoot, I think I sold myself short, and I should have kept going, but it never was coming in from inside, so I didn't. So what happened was, in April of 2018, I went to a diamond dinner that Christina hosted for us, and I brought up a question to Cody Jefferson. And if you don't know who he is, he's very blunt. And his answer simply was, you know, I asked something about sitting at 1 star for so long and blah, 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 blah. And his answer, he just looked me right in the eyes and he said, stop being lazy. I hadn't slept longer than 2 hours in months, like actually months and months. And Christina was like super protective of me, like, but she's not sleeping, and like totally had my back. But I realized that he was right. I was being lazy. I was waiting for it all to happen because didn't I do enough? And isn't it just going to happen now that I'm here? Not realizing, like, but I still had to go, but I didn't know how to unless it was from inspiration or desperation. So I started this out, and about the power always being with you. And you guys, that's 100% the truth. And the key to breaking that cycle has always been you. It will always be you. And you just have to do the work to discover what's inside of you and what will make you step away from the inspiration and desperation. So in the times in between, because those will always have an effect on us, but in between, there's something else that's pushing or pulling you towards it.
Oh, yeah.
So there was always a question that's changed my business. And the question that Dr. Vic asked me in this time where Carly and I came together and we were both surviving, right? His question was, what does a day in the life when you have arrived at your grand vision look like? And I had no freaking idea how to answer him. This was one of the questions that I was going to just say, I'm above answering this. I know I'm fine. I'm already pretty successful. So I'm just not going to answer this and pretend like I don't have to. Right? Because sometimes we don't want to do the hard work, which is that. But one of our coaches, Katie Naveau, went live and she said, I couldn't figure out how to answer this, but I finally just realized how. And she gave us the story of just basically a day in her life and how it felt. And I was in tears. And now it's so clear to me too. So an example would be for me, when I wake up on a day in my life where I'm at my grand vision, we are in our new beautiful house on the lake we own property on in Michigan. And I wake up and the room has, I mean, I can see how the ceiling, I don't even know what it's called, but it's like there's the ceiling and then it goes up in the middle and there's lights up there and we have this huge like bed and everything is gray and white and I put my feet down and my feet, it's like the hard, like really pretty dark wood, hard floors, but it's not too cold. And I have my robe that's like Alicia's, because she has the best robes. If you don't follow Alicia Patterson, tell her to put her robe on and put it on in the story because it's fluffy and it's big and you want it. And I walk just down the hallway and the boys are sleeping and I go into my office and everything's painted the same color and it's so crisp and clean. And I walk into my office and the coffee pot is in the office. So I start my coffee and I open up these big French doors. I think they're French. I don't know. I don't really know anything about decorating or what anything is. I just know they're big and they're pretty. And I open it up and there's a balcony and the wind comes in and I look outside and Rob is on our pontoon in the lake drinking his coffee and he waves to me and I wave at him and I sit down and I go through my morning of meditating and reading my devotional and reading my personal development and really getting clear on like my intention for the day, like what's today going to be like. And then I get to go wake up the kids and have breakfast with them and Rob gets to be there because he wants to be and he doesn't have to work. And then I take the kids to school and then I get to have like coffee and lunch with maybe my family or go for a bike ride with my dad or anything, like take my customers out for lunch because I can. And then I pick up the kids from school and we go home and like life is just like Owen and Oliver are fishing because we live on the lake and they just go out back and they're fishing all the time. And, you know, like I can hear it and I can see it and I can smell it and I can feel it. Now that's what the day looks like. But what else am I doing as far as my business? That's the next question. Well, I'm doing calls, I'm meeting with people, I'm speaking more. I love that I get to speak on team calls. And so when you guys do this vision, there are certain things about this business that light you up and make you excited, and they're going to stand out in that vision. And whatever that is, that's what you have to do more of, right? I want to be able to speak on more team calls and podcasts, and maybe I even have a podcast. I think like it's kind of going in that direction in my mind lately. And it's like, if I want to do more of that now, the question here is like, why am I not doing things that get me there? If I want to do more of that then, why am I not doing things that get me there now? Like an IGTV a week on the things I'm passionate about, which would be what I'm talking about on my podcast or on this or on that. And if I want to connect more with my customers and take my people out to coffee just because and this and that, then why am I not finding time to maybe just once a month do that now? Right? You guys have a vision and you have this, and you have to make sure the only way that it's going to start, not just being out of inspiration or desperation for you to build this business to your vision, is when you start living your vision right now. Right? So Dr. Vic was like, I don't have any kids, but my vision was someday when I have kids, I only want to work 3 days a week. So last year, he went down to 3 days a week and everyone was like, why are you going to 3 days a week? And he's like, because in my vision, I work 3 days a week. And so I need to make this happen on 3 days a week because that's where I'm going. He went to 3 days a week and his practice actually increased because he was aligned with his vision, right? He was happier. He was feeling himself already going there. It's not a, when this happens, then I'll be happy. It's let's start making it happen because then it all happens. You feel like you're there. Okay, so living your life with consistent inspiration, starting every day with that detailed vision. So I make sure, you guys, that in the morning, I wake up before this crazy little kid that I'm holding on to right here, who wakes up so many times still in the night. I wake up before him, and those are all of the boys. And I wake up before all of them, and I make sure that I have time where I can do my meditation. And sometimes people are like, confused by meditation and prayer can be your form of meditation as well. But I also just connect with myself and like my intentions for the day. And I think of my vision and I keep it in the forefront of my mind, because then what's important for that day is going to be pulled. I'm going to be pulled to do those things. Like make sure I'm bringing the energy live in my groups, because that's the speaking part is what's important to me, and so on. But not only to start thinking about that vision, but also using the tools to help actually be aligned with it, manifest it, attract it into your life, be clear with it and where you're going and what is needed. So you have to be sure that what you are doing and feeling and putting out there every day is what you want to get back and aligned with your vision. Because let's remember that in that very first slide, when we were committed to the funny thing of being, oh my gosh, come on, people, of being wake up, survive, and sleep. I'm just making sure that Rob's on. Okay, yeah. Wake up, survive, and sleep, right? We're committed to that feeling. We're telling ourselves and telling everybody as a joke, like, I'm just surviving. I'm surviving. When we wake up and every day, the first thought that we're thinking is like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day, or, oh, I'm surviving, or, oh my gosh, when this weekend comes, then I'll be happy, or when this, that, whatever. Like, that's what we're committed to seeing, and that's where we're going, and that's what our life feels like, and it's never going to feel like we're there. But when we can wake up and flip the switch and connect with why we're doing all of this in our grand vision and be intentional about what we're doing, that's when things really start to change. So the tools that I use to change this up is, in the morning I wake up and I intentionally move. It might just be stretching. Most of the time it's stretching. I'm not a really big up and like wake up and move a lot person, let's be honest. But wake up and stretch. I just stretch how my body wants to stretch and how it feels good, right? And then affirmations, I make sure that I am speaking affirmations to myself. So you really need to make sure that you guys are watching how you're speaking to yourself and speaking life to what you want. Because when you wake up and, oh, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this day, that is what you're going to see all the time. There's something that's called the reticular activating system, and it's a part of your brain that when you tell it that something's familiar, it thinks you like it, and it shows you more and more of that all day long. So someone finds out they're pregnant. Suddenly, everyone's pregnant, and suddenly there's these pregnancy billboards everywhere, right? It's not that those have never been there and that hasn't been all around you at all this time, but you've told your reticular activating system that that's what you want to see more of, and that you're familiar with that and you recognize that. So suddenly you see it, right? Like when Misty Nana started talking about numbers a lot, like 555 and 111 and universe signs, which I still am not a number person, but that's fun and I like it for people who are. But when she started saying that, I was like, I never see that. But suddenly my reticular activating system became aware that people do look for those sequences, and I saw them all the time. Now, pretty much every time I look at my phone, it's like 333 or 555 or 111. And I'm like, come on. But it's because that's what I told myself that was familiar and what I would see. So when you're in a bad mood and you tell yourself, how about this? Let's just be really honest. When your husband gets home from work and you have stuff that you need to do, and then when he gets home and everything kind of gets crazy, and then in your head you're like, oh my gosh, so the whole night is just going to be this, that, and the other because this is how it's supposed to be, and now this is how it is, and now all of a sudden he can't do anything right because you've decided that everything's going to be annoying already. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, he's home early, like this is going to be great, it's going to be, you decide how it's going to be in your reticular activating system, you program it. So when you wake up in the morning and you can program that you're not surviving, when you can program that you're moving towards your vision and you're so much closer to it than you were yesterday because you're actually living pieces of it right now and you're allowing yourself to do that, your reticular activating system recognizes that and it's going to show you more and more and more of it. So meditation is a huge one for me, especially for anxiety. Get in tune with yourself, allows yourself to connect to the source or to God or to both, whatever it is, and prepare for the day to be clear and focused. So like today, currently I'm struggling with some parenting calm skills that I need, some calming situations. So today I found a 10-minute guided meditation on YouTube of parenting and staying calm as a mother. And other days I'll be like, I really need to be motivated about my vision right now. So I'll do something with vision, or I'll be positive. I'm feeling kind of negative this morning. I need some positivity. So I'll do just a 10-minute or less, but some people really love it. Like Deborah Lanucha meditated for 55 minutes the other day. I was like, holy cow. But she's like, it's amazing. And it is, because for the only time in your entire day nothing matters except like how you feel and what you smell and what you hear and what you're thinking, right? And it really helps. And in that time of meditation, you guys, you also are able to get so clear and stop all of the craziness that you often come up with the answers to things that you needed that you haven't been able to figure out because you've been going so from one thing to the next. So breath work was a big one that a lot of people did. I'm not a big breath work person, but I do find that square breathing helps me a lot, which is just breathing in for 4 seconds, imagining a square, in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds. I actually taught Owen that a long time ago as well. He has some emotional rage occasionally, and that really helps him, and it really helps me too. But it helps with some before meditation. It helps you to really like relax and get deeper in that. And then journaling. I have to tell you that if I write more than 2 sentences, my hand cramps up. I never wanted to journal because I'm like, I just can't like focus. I don't even know what to write. Like, what do I even write? And my hand's going to cramp up. But when I'm done meditating, if I just sit there and I just write like what came to mind and what I'm feeling and what I thought about, and it's amazing that the next day after I journal, I read what I wrote the day before and I forget half of what I wrote, and amazing ideas and emotions are written on that page that I completely forgot about from the day before, so it's really, really powerful there. I'm trying to pull up the chat, but I can't see it right now. So I'll have to do that in just a second. So the why. So there's a couple things I'm going to have you guys do. Not right now because I want to continue talking here, but I will, when I post the recording, I'll post these questions. The why. So write it down. What are you working towards? Do you feel like you're right now, the first answer that comes to your head, are you working out of desperation, inspiration, or in between? Why are you doing this? Right? We always talk about the why. And that's really important, but like, let yourself get deep with this. It's not to help people. That's great, but there's more, right? There's more, and that's okay. It's not to earn an extra $200 a month. That's great, but there's more, right? What does a day in the life look like for you when you get to that place? Get very clear, and it's okay if it's hard, because it'll get easier with the tools that we've been talking, or that we talked about, and that we'll talk a little bit more about. So breaking the cycle of inspiration and desperation, please remember that inspiration will always come in and do that, inspire you and make you take more action. You'll feel excited and momentum, and desperation will always come in and make you move your ass, right? And change your course. But you have to break the cycle of only having those times of change when those come in. There has to be something else in the middle, and it has to come from within, being aligned to that feeling of where you're going and why. So having clarity, know why you are doing what you're doing always. It's not the how that matters. It doesn't matter how you're going to post today. It doesn't matter how you're going to invite those people. It doesn't matter how you're going to recruit. It doesn't matter how you're going to answer that conversation. It matters why you're going to do it. And when you're so clear with your why you're doing all this, the how just naturally comes authentically because you're clear. Have a grand vision that continues to grow as you do. When I arrived to being home full time with Owen, there was nothing else for me to reach to. Of course I got lazy. What else was I reaching for? Right? I had arrived. I didn't need anything else because I wasn't working from within. I was working for an outside satisfaction and constantly pushed and pulled by outside circumstances and never from what's within. So we have to get to that place where we're working from within. Have a routine that keeps you aligned and connected to that vision in yourself. Just like a workout, I miss days of meditation. And when I do, everybody can tell. And so can I. But you have to just keep trying. And meditating might sound really weird. Like my husband actually a couple years ago took on meditating, and I was like, I remember he was going upstairs to meditate at like 3 p.m. And I was like, you're going to do what? He's like, I'm going to go meditate. I'm like, okay. You know, like I was totally like not on board with what he was talking about. And now I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this wonderfulness? Like, this is amazing. And it really is. So, all right. Let's see. So my ideal morning, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how I am working on becoming a morning person. But if anyone follows me, you know that I've actually only woke up at 5 a.m. on purpose, like 3 times probably. But this would be ideal for me. And I just keep striving for this. Wake up at 5, from 5 to 4 at 5:45, you guys. Notice that 45 minutes is me reading, meditating, journaling, affirmation, getting myself clear and intentional for what I need to be and who I need to be for that day. Because if everything's important, nothing's important. And if I wake up and I just do my minimum of all that and it takes me 15 minutes and then I either jump into my workout or my action hour, well, suddenly everything's important because I haven't been intentional on anything. So I'm just doing everything. Everything's important, nothing's important. So I use that 45 minutes, which I used to kind of think would be a waste of time for me and I'd never want to do. It's like time that if I don't get at least 45 minutes, I'm like craving it because I'm so intentional then. And I know what the day is going to be like. So from 6 to 7, work out and get ready for the day. That often gets hijacked and ends up with me nursing Oliver and working. But it's a good thing to go for. 7:15 to 8 would be my most important business activities for the day. And I know what they are. Each day they're different because I'm clear from that 45 minutes of earlier of what I need to do. So I'm clear on the intention for the month. I know that this month I'm recruiting. I know that by July 18th, I want to be qualifying for 5-star so that I can qualify for leadership to be able to bring all that information back to the team in September. I know that my intention for this month is that. So what is my intention for the week? Well, I better be recruiting and working closely with the people that are going to help our team achieve that. And so what do I need to do today? Right? I'm very intentional on the 3 things that are important for the day. So the real hustle and the bustle, you guys, is on you. Everybody's always like, network marketing, there's so much going on with network marketing now, and like it's the hustle, the mom hustle, the nap time hustle, the hustle, hustle, hustle. And everybody's like, I just don't want to do all that hustle. And I want to give you permission to stop, because the hustle and the bustle is really just on you. It's on all of this stuff that we're talking about. And it's on you thinking to your vision and being aligned with it and giving yourself permission and space to create that inside of you and come from that place every single day. And there is no way in the world that you can fail and not succeed at your vision if you are not intentional with that every single day and truly believe that the hustle and the bustle is on you and your soul and your purpose and what's inside of you, right? So as you walk yourself through the morning and day, experiencing all you see and feel, think of some affirmations that you could start saying in the morning to connect to yourself. So this is an activity like tomorrow as you're going through, what do you need to say? Or think back to today, like what do you need to say that would help you be more aligned tomorrow? Like what do you need to affirm in your life? And write them down and start developing that space in the morning. And I wouldn't recommend starting at 45 minutes. I'd recommend starting meditating for 5 minutes, journaling for 5 minutes, make sure it's shortened, get up at 6 or 6:30 instead of 5, but you're going to learn to crave that length and crave the earlier time to be able to have that for you. So it goes beyond our business building and our professional development. It is truly personal development. And there's a huge difference between personal development and professional development. And you need both. You absolutely need both. So I actually read 2 books a month. One is personal development on my spiritualness, on what's inside, on my vision, on my parenting, whatever it is. And one is professional for business activities. And depending on how I feel in the morning, I pick which one I'm reading. And at night before I go to bed, I read the other one. And I have a very high demand lifestyle. So when I tell you I'm reading, it's really only 5 minutes, but it matters. It matters if what you're doing in that time, if you're not reading or if you are. And you have to grow you to grow a business. That's really what it's about. Your business will only grow as much as you're allowing yourself to grow and allow yourself to be in tune with all this. So it is truly your personal development, your journey, your alignment to your truth and what you're breathing life into. So I ended with this at Coach Camp at the Growth Project. And I really love this. An old Cherokee told his grandson, my son, there's a battle between 2 wolves inside all of us. One is evil. It's anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. The other is good. It's joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, and truth. And the boy thought about it and he asked, well, grandfather, which of the wolf wins? Which wolf wins? And the old man quietly replied, the one that you feed. So with that, I just want to ask you guys, what wolf are you feeding every day? Are you surviving? Are you feeding the bad wolf, the one that's ego and jealousy and resentment because you're working so hard and you're doing this alone and someday you're going to get there and you're comparing, like, which, or are you feeding the good one, the one that's inside of you, that's aligned with your vision, that's happy, that's purposeful, that's intentional, that's making space for you in your life so that your life can be what you want it to be and what you know that it's supposed to be, right? So that's all I have. I didn't think it was going to take me an hour to get through, but it did. I'm planning on doing a follow-up call where I dive kind of a little bit deeper into those tools that I talked about. And I'm going to have Carly kind of run it with me so she can jump into those too. And we'd really like to take you guys like on a journey of those tools and like some specific ones that helped us and how as well. So stay tuned for that. But I hope that this helped and inspired you. And thanks for listening. I truly loved sharing it so much from the bottom of my heart. So I'm going to take a peek over here. Meditating is amazing. Yes. Rain sounds is, oh yes. Ocean. Number one thing is journaling. I love it. The loop. Yes. Brain dumps. Brain dumps are huge. Like getting all of that stuff out of your head so you're just clear. Alignment is the new hustle. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So what I would love for you guys to do is to make a commitment right now that you are going to carve some space for this to start in your life tomorrow or tonight, even before you go to bed, but 15 minutes, carve anything, make that space, find it a partner that you can say, I did it. I woke up. I'm doing it now. I missed my morning, but I'm doing it tonight, and really make this space for you, because I promise you that it will be the best thing that you've ever done, because for the first time in your life, you're going to feel like you're living, like you're not surviving, you're living. Like when people say, hey, how are you today? You're not going to say surviving, because we all think that's funny. I used to say it all the time and it was funny to me, but instead you're going to be like, I'm freaking living, right? I'm killing it, as Carly would say. So, okay, that's it. That's a wrap. I'm going to go ahead and take a